inflation, the first thing that usually comes to mind is rising prices. But that's not the whole story, not even close. See, inflation is really a system, a powerful and usually invisible system that's constantly moving wealth from one group of people to another. So in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and really dig into how that system actually works. So here's how I'll break it down. We'll start with the popular misunderstanding, the story we all know. Then we'll get to a deeper definition. After that, we'll uncover the hidden mechanisms at play, look at how institutions and individuals experience this differently, and finally, wrap it all up to see inflation's true impact.
All right, let's kick things off with where most of our ideas about inflation come from. It really starts with a simple, intuitive idea that almost everyone shares.
So, let's just ask the basic question we all think we know the answer to. What exactly is inflation?
For most of us, the answer isn't a definition. It's a feeling, right? It's that price of groceries or gas or rent going up. It's that simple, frustrating sense that our money just doesn't go as far as it used to.
But here's the thing. That simple answer is, well, it's pretty misleading. We focus on rising prices because they're obvious, they're visible, they're the tip of the iceberg. What's invisible is the huge wealth transfer happening just beneath the surface. The common story makes it feel like we all get poorer together. But the reality is, some groups actually benefit from this. And this is the crucial point. Inflation is not a neutral force. Not at all.
So if inflation isn't neutral, then what is it? To get to the bottom of that, we have to move past the surface and start looking at it as a system.
When you strip everything else away, here's what you're left with. Inflation is a systemic transfer of wealth. The real story isn't about rising prices. It's about purchasing power being quietly shuffled from one group over to another.
So a better, more system-level definition is this. Inflation is a change in the value of money itself, and that change causes a real shift in purchasing power between different groups in the economy. It creates this growing gap between the number printed on a dollar bill and what that dollar can actually go out and buy for you.
Okay, so this brings us to the really interesting part, the hidden mechanisms. If inflation is a wealth transfer, then how exactly does that transfer happen? Let's take a look under the hood.
The very first mechanism works through time. Now, the core idea here is simple but incredibly powerful. Money you get today is worth more than the exact same amount of money you get in the future. This hits anyone on a fixed income the hardest. Think retirees or salaried workers whose paychecks only adjust once a year. Their purchasing power is silently draining away long before their income has any chance to catch up.
All right, the second mechanism is what you could call the balance sheet effect. Inflation systematically favors debtors over creditors. So net debtors, someone with a huge fixed-rate mortgage, for example, they actually win. They get to repay their loans with money that is worth less than when they first borrowed it. On the other side of the coin, you have net creditors, savers, people who hold cash or bonds. They lose because inflation just erodes the real value of their assets. This is a quiet but absolutely massive transfer of wealth from savers to borrowers. Now, the third mechanism is a bit more subtle. It works through two totally different channels. We're all very familiar with consumer price inflation. That's the one we see at the grocery store. But there's also asset price inflation, the rise in the price of things like stocks, real estate, and other financial assets. See, consumer inflation hurts wage earners and people holding cash. But asset inflation? That primarily benefits people who already own assets and those who can get credit to buy more. The result, a widening gap in wealth inequality.
So who's on the winning and losing side of this whole transfer? Well, to really see that clearly, we have to look at the huge difference between how large institutions and individuals handle this.
You know, institutions can react to inflation with the speed and scale that individuals just can't match. They have pricing power, so they can adjust what they charge almost instantly. They have easy access to leverage, which lets them become net debtors and benefit. And they build inflation adjustment clauses right into their contracts. Individuals, for the most part, don't have these tools. They're left to basically absorb the full impact.
So in an inflationary system, it all boils down to two things: speed and access. Those who can react quickly and get access to sophisticated financial tools can navigate the system, and often they can even profit from it.
So let's put all the pieces together. What is the true impact of this system when you see it operating at the scale of an entire economy?
When you zoom out, the large-scale effects are just undeniable. The system, the way it's set up, inherently rewards leverage and the strategic use of debt.
At the very same time, it punishes saving in cash. Over the long haul, these dynamics just accelerate wealth inequality, and they fundamentally reshape the economic incentives for every single person in society.
So when you start to see inflation through this lens, as a system of silent, continuous wealth transfer, understanding how it works is no longer just some financial skill. It becomes a crucial form of modern literacy. It's really about learning to see the invisible rules that are constantly shaping our economic world.
This channel explains money, artificial intelligence, and decision-making as interconnected systems. No hype, no gurus, no personal branding. New videos weekly.